What's going on, everybody? This is A&J, and welcome back to the network. And if you saw my previous video that I recorded just before recording this one, hopefully that fills you in on at least to some degree of the things that have been going on since the last time I posted. And not that I look to make any sort of excuses or anything like that, but again, just wanted to shed some light on things and just putting that out there. That's really all there is to it. That being said, a lot of things have certainly been going on in sports, particularly with the NFL and with the NBA, but of course this is NFL focused. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say this didn't involve my Denver Broncos, but that's really not the primary focus of this topic here. And I say that only because of any supposed involvement that the Broncos may or may not have had and may or may not have in the coming days, weeks, or whatever. But of course, as we all know, there's been two very, very significant stories which are centered around two very, very significant quarterbacks, namely Aaron Rodgers of the Green Bay Packers and, of course, Deshaun Watson, currently of the Houston Texans. And I'm going to focus on the latter here just because of the fact that I actually will talk about Aaron Rodgers. I just don't know if it's something that I'm going to work on, much less be posting today. Just depends on how things are going when I actually get to that point. But I'm actually going to set that aside for right now because I wanted to get this out of the way. Really not for any particular reason, just this is the direction I just chose to go. So now that I've gotten to that, the report now is the Houston Texans are now willing to trade Deshaun Watson. And I gotta say, this is hilarious to me for a multitude of reasons. One of which is the fact that I know I may catch a lot of crap for this, and honestly, I couldn't care less either way personally, because this is my perspective on this, and if you disagree, that's fine. But to me, this is where I am with this, and you're really not going to say or even do a whole lot to actually change my mind about this. But a situation where his lawsuit from 22 different women for sexual misconduct will say, that's something that me personally, there's a double-edged sword to this, and I want to preface everything that I'm saying by pointing out that I'm not trying to be dismissive of where any of the 22 women are coming from in this situation, because really, when it boils down to it, I don't know what's going on with any of this. So I'm being as careful as I can personally, just because I want to be respectful of that, even though a lot of what I have to say is gonna obviously be very much to the contrary, and that's fine. But I want to put that out there real quick, because again, I'm not trying to be entirely, in fact, I'm not even trying to be dismissive of that at all. That's certainly not my objective in any way whatsoever. But to me, I just find it really, really excruciatingly suspicious that this would all come along just days after Watson request a trade from the Houston Texans. I mean, there's just too many things wrong with that picture alone, in my personal opinion. Again, that's all this is just my opinion. And the fact that they're willing to listen to offers for Watson services now is really hilarious to me. And it's also because of the fact that, as I mentioned before in my previous video, I do live reactions to First Take. They, of course, talked about the fact that he has reported a training camp. And, of course, the question was, is this a distraction to the Houston Texans? Now, everything about that question is an absurdity and a half, especially because of the fact that we're talking about the Houston Texans here. I mean, come on. The Houston Texans, who, if memory serves me right, and I'd like to think any and everybody who's watching this remembers a little clip that got out where at the end of a Texans loss, him and J.J. Watt are seen, and it is documented, with them walking off the field, and Watt is quick to apologize to Watson for, quote unquote, wasting one of his years. And it's funny that that would be the case because, really, if we're being honest, that's not even remotely close to being J.J. Watt's fault, but just being the stand-up guy that J.J. Watt has been proven to be. That's what he's going to say anyway, and it's as genuine as it can get because, I mean, I just don't see how that isn't the case. But that aside, I understand that there's the matter of these 22 lawsuits, as mentioned before, and again, that's not something that's to be ignored. I just really, at the very least, have some pause for cause because of how all of this came along, and again, the timing of when this came along as well. But that's really all I'm going to say about that, and I'm not going to go into any more detail about it because there's still a lot that we don't know, and the worst part about it is that there's been a lot of dragging of the feet in terms of the process of this situation ever since it was made public for everybody to know. But regardless, there's no way that it's distraction for all of that right there. And of course, what really doesn't help is the fact that the Texans organization didn't say no to him reporting to training camp. I mean, most other organizations, if not all other organizations, the last time I checked, would have gotten in contact with Deshaun Watson and been like, you know what? Let's go ahead and have you hold off on that. Go ahead and just chill out at home for right now. Just kick back for a bit. Let's see if anything else comes of this situation, and we'll go from there. Because we're not going to have this be a deterrent for us or for you any more than it needs to be. I mean, at least that's what I would like to think organizations would do, because common sense. I mean, that's really all that boils down to. But nope, none of this was the case here. And again, they're now willing to trade Deshaun Watson, which is even more laughable because before any of this was made public, they had ample opportunity to actually move him and get quite a haul for him in the process, regardless of who it would have been that was involved and what it might have entailed. So now, with all of this looming, the Texans are going to lose out on quite a bit if they actually do accept an offer from a multitude of teams that are going to be ringing their phone here in the very near future, just really at any point in the future. I can assure you of that. There's just no way that they're not going to be taking calls now. I mean, they said that they will. In any case, I just want to put a couple of scenarios out there, especially where my Broncos are concerned. Again, I'm not really counting on this being the case. It's just something I want to throw out there because I want to. Now, the first scenario is that if it is the Broncos, and this trade happens anytime within the next X amount of weeks or however long that may be, the reason it's going to happen now is, especially as I will discuss when I talk about Aaron Rodgers, as we all know, Aaron Rodgers will be playing at least one more season with the Green Bay Packers. So getting him into a Broncos uniform is definitely highly unlikely at this point. And with that being the case, if they're looking to actually bring someone in, Watson is easily the best available option that there is, at least as far as on the field is concerned. Now, of course, this is just taken into consideration everything regarding the off the field, where, of course, we don't know where any of this is going to go, given that there's still police investigations going on. Watson hasn't talked to the league yet about what has happened. And on top of all that, if and when such a deal goes down, we don't know how that's going to affect said team, and really how that's going to affect what all is included to obtain his services. So, with that being the case, just if you're a Broncos fan that's seeing and listening to this right now, I understand your trepidation and your hesitation to want to be okay with this. And that's fine. I have nothing against that whatsoever. And again, this is me speaking my personal perspective. We're all entitled to that in our own way. So let's not act like I didn't put that out there, because I am. And I just want to know that that's very much respected, especially given the responses that I may or may not get from this. And furthermore, I hate to look at this as a brighter side because of the ramifications that can and probably will come from it. The asking price is going to go down significantly. I mean, let's be honest. There's no way that Houston is going to be getting 2 or more first-round draft picks or anything remotely close to being that kind of asset. I mean, they'll get a handful of assets one way or the other, but it's just not going to be the haul that it would have been if this situation isn't what it is today. I mean, that's really all there is to that. So that's one bright side for this, for Broncos and for fans of any franchise that's going to be interested here in the coming days and weeks and whatever. Now, another thing about it is that, yes, at first there's definitely going to be a lot of backlash, regardless of where he goes. That's just par for the course when it comes to these sort of things. But when it happens, there's not much that's going to actually change that. And even more to that point, I mean, this is the one thing that we should be looking at more than anything else. There's going to be an awful lot of winning involved for whoever it is that winds up landing their services. I mean, that's the bigger picture bottom line that should be all that matters in the end. And if we're being perfectly honest, that's going to put all of this stuff so far behind us, we're almost going to even forget that it's even a thing. So let's just keep all of that in mind with everything that's going on right here and now. But another scenario that we want to take into consideration is really, for me, is going to be the most likely one, and it's going to be very similar to Rodgers because I think it's more likely this happens at once we get to the next offseason. And if we're being perfectly honest, that's really the more feasible way to go for all parties involved. And at least at that point, the air will be cleared as far as the lawsuits, accusations, and whatever may be concerned. And, it won't be as much of a hindrance as it is right now. So, really, I'm counting on the latter a lot more so than the former, especially because it just makes more sense. And really, I just think it would be better for all of the teams that may or may not be interested in acquiring Deshaun Watson. I mean, there's just no reason to rush into this right now because if it's me personally, I'm waiting until all of this is at least a lot closer to being out of the way as humanly possible. I mean, that's, again, just the common sense way of going about that. But either way, again, that's my take, that's my perspective. Say, think, and feel what you will about it. I'm certainly more than welcoming that, and I'm more than happy to hear anything that you may have to say about that. So, that being said, like and subscribe if you are new down below. And if you want to offer any sort of perspective on that and respond to everything that I've said here in this video, feel free to do so down below. In the meantime, I want to say thank you very much for your time and for having me, and I hope you have a good one. Take care.